Good morning. Humanity. What is humanity? It's humans, human beings with skin, flesh, lips, teeth, eyes, ears, speech. Humans. I'm a human. I've contributed to making my very own humans. I'll just give a little shout out to my daughter because she's helping me out right now in the form of something to lean on. What is humanity? Humanity. It's this, isn't it? It's when it really breaks down to it. I mean, imagine you're on your own, then it's not humanity, it's just you. So in order to make the first step into humanity, you would have to interact with another human. Hence the plurality of Siferd. Humanity. Humanity, it describes the collective of all humans. And the way that the collective of all humans would interact with each other would be by using their humanity, their humanness, to talk and interact and do business, and do all these things with other humans. It's funny when you think of the word humanity. Sometimes we talk about how humanity is beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, the beauty of humanity. And then we can talk about the horror of humanity as well, because we are capable of both. And I think the trickiest thing to do is to find out and navigate and to triangulate yourself into where in that spectrum of the beauty of humanity and the horror of humanity, where on that spectrum are you? Some of the most beautiful expressions of humanity that from my personal point of view, are things like music, of course, especially like collective music, multiple musicians, but actually just music in general, and sharing music, sharing that artistic expression of sound, the painting of sound. Of course, painting, art, sculpture, architecture, religion, worship. Things like this. Sitting around a campfire. Humanity. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Dachau, Auschwitz, the rape of Nanking. Horror. The horror of humanity. Potentially some of that going on at the moment in the world. Getting a lot of attention. What happens when we put our attention on something? What does it do? Does it amplify or does it disappear? Some of the other, things about humanity that aren't great, things like gossip, hearsay, slander, ostracism, bullying, discrimination, racism. And, basically all those things lead to the horrors I mentioned before, don't they? What's another human thing that's beautiful? Family. Family. Supposed to be beautiful, isn't it? It's supposed to be a beautiful thing. But sometimes when a magnifying glass is put on it and someone steps back and looks at it, maybe it's not beautiful. I personally found out yesterday that in my own case, absolutely not beautiful. Very susceptible to outside influence, collective coercion, collective force. And under that pressure, that beautiful thing that I thought family was, disintegrated. Why would that be possible? Well, I'll get back to my hashtag, won't I? Scale matters. Scale matters is a lot of things. It means a lot of things. It's a really handy phrase to use, I've found, and I keep finding new ways to use it. Isn't that interesting? The main thing, of course, is we need a bigger screen. So if you're watching this, you could watch me properly. And then actually at the height of it, you could not watch a recording, you'd watch and have a conversation with me in person. Then perhaps the slanderous, gossipy hearsay that you've either digested or helped distribute would maybe break down, because it's very easy to continue on this type of thing when you're not staring someone in the eyes, isn't it? When it's off in the distance. When the figure gets moved off the board and then is collectively attacked to protect something that you didn't even know you were protecting. A structure, a system, a call to arms, an enemy of the state. So yeah, humanity. What do I think has happened to humanity? I think humanity has been imprisoned into isolation cells and then trained and coaxed and drugged to conform to a narrative whose main goal, if quantified, was the destruction of God and the dehumanization of the human race. Intermediaries that we'd simply become. Programmable monkeys. We don't need chips directly in our brain to program us. We're far easier to program than that. The pyramids weren't built with chips in our brain. The pyramids were built by people. Now, if these individuals that could do that just merely by their voice and collective organization, and it's debatable whether that's a positive or not, then imagine what you could do if you had the controls, the back-end controls of an interconnected distribution system of propaganda that was individualized to each person, to individually program you to do exactly as you're fucking told, including ostracize members of your family and watch and know that they were in isolation, digital isolation, a brand new, wondrous form of isolation that hadn't existed yet. Great way to just put it out of your mind and not think it's real. And just watch and watch and watch and talk and slander and do all those things. A complete fabrication. Completely disconnected to anything that was actually going on. And how do I know? Because I was documenting what was going on. And what was the trigger? Was it a flag? No. It was a marketing campaign by a pharmaceutical industry that is known for being the most corrupt, the most destructive industry in the world, already known. "80 years they had to prepare this. And if you knew how close we were to losing everything, you'd probably have a heart attack. So yeah, humanity. Readjust, re-navigate, re-triangulate yourself. Mass formation. Mass formation. There was a lot of talk about this during the height of the pandemic, and especially the height of the vaccination mandates and all that. And great examples of this in history of humanity. Things like Nazi Germany, Soviet revolutions, Chinese revolutions. You could say things like the tulip bubble, the housing crisis, mass formation was described by the individuals I was watching as a phenomenon that happens, that emerges from certain stimulus, long period of isolation, collective enemy identified. Now, when I was listening to those descriptions at that time, which was now about 2 years ago, and then after that very quickly preceded the worst year of my life, the most horrific year I've ever witnessed of humanity. It was like the books I'd been reading were just materializing in front of my eyes. And I wasn't reading Harry Potter, although there's a fair bit of that in Harry Potter as well. But to be seeing, I couldn't believe, which is strange because I was reading those books to be prepared and things like that, but there was something astonishing to be watching this phenomenon, this formation, this alignment under one single cause, especially because I knew that cause was against every single thing that I'd been learning and researching and understanding about environments and biology and ecosystems and ecology for 15 years. So it was, you can imagine, it's amazingly confronting. But all of that was like, oh, there's this accidental thing that's happened. There's this, we've got a pandemic, and then we've got these things to lock everyone up and shut down. And at the same time, we're introducing global interconnectivity, and then we've got to figure out what the rules are to do with that. And then you can see how there was two kind of things going on. Then once I look a bit closer to that, the fact that this was known, this was a known aspect of humanity with countless examples in the past. It started dawning on me that this effect I was seeing that was landing and attacking me wasn't some type of random phenomenon to do with a global virus. This was engineered. This was calculated. This was unleashed on humanity. For the same reason it always has been. This is a known technique. Really well known now. If you take Hitler, the emergence of Hitler, and you take things like the emergence of communism in China, this has happened under pretty intense documentation because we had video cameras and radio and recordings and photographs and all these really, really, really like high definition points to map out not just what was going on, but to reverse engineer it and recreate it. And I suppose the genius of if genius being nothing to do with morality, just maybe the genius of the concept, was you can see how they removed the figure, didn't they? Because it fell down on the figure. When we think of Nazi Germany, we think of Hitler, don't we? Because it was held up under a figure. When we think of this, Soviets, we think of Stalin. Individual figures are flawed. Individual figures can be killed and then the whole thing dies. So if you're an intelligent engineering folk, you know what I mean? Very diligent, very specific and precise and systematized and all the things that you would be doing. Well, you wouldn't do it again under a person, under an individual. I mean, look at the greatest thing. We have Christianity. That's the same effect. Christianity's got really long legs on it, hasn't it? It's got 2,000 years under its belt. 2,023 years, to be precise. 24, sorry. Not 23, it's complicated. When was he born? When was he dead? Anyway. Really long legs, but still an individual. Flawed, because it's an individual. But a concept like science, despite its roots from very religious beginnings, science wasn't a man, wasn't an individual, couldn't die. Science was like Iron Man, isn't it? Robert Downey Jr. plays Iron Man at the moment, but as we've seen in the Spider-Man franchise, Spider-Man can be played by multiple people. So science is immortal. Science is the perfect tool to use to kill God, to kill the religions, to kill the spark of humanity. The atrocities committed in the name of science in the last 100 years outweigh the atrocities committed by religion by probably a factor of 100 times. And I love science. I'm pro-science. I use science all the time. Science is a tool. Science is like a notepad. It's not a messiah. It's not a god. It's a tool. A gun is a tool as well. And a gun can be used to provide you with food, to defend your family, or to commit genocide, to rob a bank, to rob a liquor store. Tools are not fit for the purpose that they were attempted to be elevated to. I understand you rebel from the horrific things that religion has done that we all know about. But if you're going to replace it with anything, don't replace it with a tool like science. Because science is equally as destructive as organised religion. The Nazi concentration camps, the genocide in there, that was science. That was scientism. That was the early, modern, this century version of scientism. Frankenstein is scientism gone awry. We've known this is there. And yet it was still just offered up. And you all took the communion. Not like that, not like that, but like that. What did it cost me to resist this attempted global cult initiation and rejection of common sense, really? Not a lot. It didn't cost me much at all, because I'm lucky enough to... my mum has a property and it has a grapefruit tree on it. Tons of grapefruit. And a bag of sugar costs about $3, $4, $5 for a 2 kilo bag, and that lasts me a fucking long time. And it's wonderful. I feel great. It's tons of energy. I've been pretty productive if you look back. I gave up certain luxuries, quite a lot of luxuries, but they're luxuries. Yeah, small price to pay for my overall freedom, and hopefully the freedom of the whole state and the whole country. And yeah, why did that land on an individual sitting eating grapefruit and sugar? Well, because you're all fucking selfish cunts. Self-centered, greedy cunts. In a race to fucking pile up your belongings and your property values and everything else. Clamoring fucking pile of zombies. Watch, I think it's World War Z with Brad Pitt. Brad Pitt, you probably prefer watching him than me. There's a scene where all the zombies are climbing over each other in a big pile trying to get into the walls of Jerusalem. And isn't that what you're all fucking trying to do? But you should have listened to the bloke. You don't fucking pile on each other to get over the walls of Jerusalem. He said it's easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for a rich man to enter the gates of heaven. But hey, that's just religious mumbo jumbo, and heaven's after you die. I'm here, I'm going to live. But are you living? It didn't look like it to me. It doesn't look like it to me. But anyway, I'm going to talk about science. I'm going to explain the simple bait and switch that was thrust onto the world to destroy what I love. I love science. I use science all the time. Science, unlike religion, it's got the actual scientific method, which is what science is. It's not a flag. It's not even a method. The method isn't science. That's the switch. The method would be only able to be described in the action, using proper scientific language and proper scientific rhetoric and all these things. If you do use the scientific method to discover or to elevate or to put forward a particular method for whatever, whether it's making a cake or making a bomb, science actually claims that it is simply a method that has emerged using the scientific method. It does not have anything to do with the morality or the effectiveness or even in a lot of cases, if you were just simply looking at one variable, it doesn't guarantee that it won't affect all the variables that weren't put under the method, the overall scientific method. And that's a mouthful, and that's how this was pulled off, because to actually describe science takes more than just a fucking slogan. Slogans are the most anti-scientific thing you could have. Slogans are manipulation. They're propaganda. Anyone simplifying science down to a slogan or an exact thing or anything, no matter what it is, no. The science is never settled. Ever. That's what it is. That's the beauty of it. So take this, like, say we're doing ecological science. Take this pasture right here. Okay? This is what I've been doing. It's really boring. That's why you didn't listen. I didn't have celebrities. I didn't spend billions and billions of dollars on marketing. I didn't scare the shit out of you, although I could, because if you were scared of the pandemic, you should really be scared about what's going on in our overall ecology. But I don't want to do that, because that will just enable more sociopathic corporations to provide solutions. There's a thing called the Green Revolution. About 40 years ago, we hit a point where we were very concerned that we were going to run out of arable land. And a scientific thing happened that saved us at the last minute. And it was to do with plant breeding, actually. It wasn't even GMO at this stage, I don't think. But they bred a shorter crop of wheat. And because it wasn't as tall, didn't grow as tall, it was more productive per acre. I think actually something like 70% more productive. Correct me if I'm wrong. So that made all the land nearly twice as productive. Now, in combination with that, we developed artificial fertilizers, which also added to the effect to make us be able to maintain to here. Now, the problem is that the plant wasn't such a big deal. Plant breeding is something we've done. The reason we have lots of different types of apples or grapes or grapefruit or citrus or anything like that is because of plant breeding. I'm a part of breeding as well. I'm a mongrel of crossbreeding cultures and things like that. We all pretty much are at some level, except for a couple of us. But that was kind of okay. The artificial fertilizer, on the other hand, is a perfect analogy. It's exactly the same effect as what the vaccine does. It's a Band-Aid. And I love that they used a Band-Aid in the Roll Up for WA campaign, and I use it all the time because that's what it was. It was a Band-Aid solution. Did you get a Band-Aid after your vaccine? Band-Aid solution. Artificial fertilizer. Band-Aid solution. Temporary fix. And what happened with the vaccine? You needed a booster and a booster and a booster and a booster. That's economics. That's business. That's not science. And more importantly, the effects after are not calculated. If you had go back to, I can't remember his name, I wish I could, because that would make me sound really smart. The guy who invented artificial fertilizer, that's an amazing invention. It is. I actually even think there is places we can use it, but we need to separate it from our overall land base. Do you know what I mean? Perhaps in really, really calculated hydroponic systems, we can use artificial fertilizers and somehow recycle those nutrients to actually enter the carbon cycle. But when we just put it on the ground, like we do with millions and millions of hectares across the world, and this is adding on to the fact that we've already removed anything taller than this, or in the most case maybe corn, which is 6 foot tall, but then most trees are 10 times larger than a corn plant. So we've cut down that carbon. If that's the carbon that we're in trouble with. It's got nothing to do with exhaust pipes. It's nothing to do with it. We burnt all that carbon. And we're not putting it back. And we're not putting it back in the ground. And the nitrogen fertilizer is chewing it up out of the ground. That's literally what it does. You put nitrogen into carbon-rich soil. It destroys the carbon in the soil. And this is thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of hectares. That's one thing that's bad enough if you want to be in the climate change brigade, but it also kills everything in the soil, everything, and kind of sterilizes the soil for up to 5-6 years. And then it's only just starting to get back. And this is the same as viruses. Viruses, we need to combat them, and you do that by health. And the reason I'm sitting out here without a shirt on and eating grapefruit is to get my ABCs. Vitamin A, which is analysis. Vitamin B, which is, I don't know. No. Vitamin C in grapefruit is what I've had, and vitamin D from the sun, to build up my ecosystem to be able to combat viruses And then that actually is like a joint effort we all do together.